which was interesting. He spoke about, well, they asked him on something that he made mention on his in his book about when he was inside his mother's womb. You know, he heard Dr. King speak from then. Like, you know, Dr. King was ministering to him, you know, in from the womb, and how that played an effect on him, you know, as a man when he went out to do things creatively. Because that was the time period that his parents were from. It was the whole civil rights generation, you know. So for him to receive that stuff and not even being born yet, that stuff is real. When people we talking about when people, you know, when women are pregnant with children, what you play around them is important. What they hear is important. You think that they're not paying attention to that, and that's not they're not absorbing that, but they're absorbing that early. What are kids absorbing now? The children of this generation, the people that are grown in this, what were they absorbing? And it was just a key point to me. I was like, that really resonated with me. Is that the reason why a majority of it is that what we're hearing now is because, you know, the children of the crack epidemic era, you know, these kids that have been raised in broken households and fathers not being around. And what were children in the womb hearing during that time, you know?
It reminds me of a line that Most Def, very well, Yasin Bey now, he said on the Black on Both Sides album, where it was asked to him, "Where's hip hop going?" And he said, "Hip hop is where the people are.
Right.
If the people is messed up, then hip hop is messed up." And that statement that you just said reminds me of that. Because a lot of times we put a lot of emphasis on artists to be a certain way. But when you look at, and don't get me wrong, like I don't take hip hop music off the hook.
Right.
You know, I love hip hop, but I'll critique it word up because it's a lot of stuff that's out there that really shouldn't be on the airwaves. You know what I mean?
It's unhealthy.
Yeah. But I do also think is a big onus on us as people. Like, what are we into? You know, I always say, like, as an art form, if you compared hip hop to movies, hip hop doesn't get the same respect as like films. And I know hip hop is a genre in music, right? But just for the sake of comparing the two, when you watch a film, you sit there and you watch the film from beginning to end, and you look for plots. You know, you look to be intrigued, right? Especially if it's like a thriller or a sci-fi film or whatever, right? When people listen to hip hop, they don't listen to it intentionally trying to listen to the lyrics. You know,
Right.
it's the reason why you could be in a club with somebody who's a grandmother and they could be singing Uchi Wally, you know what I'm saying? And not know what they singing because we don't listen to what the music is saying before we recite it. We just go with the melody. We go with the hot beat,
Go with
which
the
it
hook.
has, it all
Right.
has a important place, but it's about vibe. And I love vibe. I think vibe is an important part of music. But when it comes to hip hop, this is spoken word, be like it
Facts.
does include beats,
Facts.
which is extremely important, but it's when you talk about hip hop, or if you just want to get even more specific, you talk about rap, it's spoken word. So it requires your attention to listen. And if you're not listening, you getting persuaded one way or the other.
Good
You know what
point.
I'm saying? You need to be able to say, yo, I'm not feeling what this person is saying here. You know what I mean? But a lot of what happens with hip hop too is a lot of bandwagoning and a lot of hype. And I'm not for the hype. If you dope and there's a hype behind you, fine. But like I see a lot of people jumping on stuff because it's hyped, and yeah, that's just my, I know I went off into a tangent, but like
No,
we're worried. I just went off to a tangent, but yeah, I just feel like I had to say that. You know what I'm saying?
no, that was a good point. I mean, there's responsibility that comes in hip hop that everyone has to take responsibility for.
Mm.
Like you said, you can't take the rappers off the hook. Can't take the rappers off the hook. A lot of rappers like to get off the hook and say, "Hey, listen, I don't raise kids. We ain't got no more Malcolm X's. They ain't no more Martin Luther Kings. They ain't no more Stokely Carmichaels. Um, whatever you want to say. People are paying attention to that person on the mic.
Mm.